How we doing, family? It is your boy, Jonathan Lambright, one of the most authentic preachers you will ever hear, and this is my podcast, Church from the Other Side. And in today's episode, my topic is believing you are meant for greatness. A problem with many people is that they have a hard time believing that they can be great. Most people don't realize that God has placed seeds of greatness in them. And with the right environment and with the right nourishment, anyone can be great. And when I say greatness, I'm not talking about in some spiritual way or, we're all great in a special way. I really mean greatness by the world's definition, being better than average. And I know that many Christians will take offense to this kind of teaching, but just know, greatness is biblical. God makes people great. In Genesis 24:35, we read that God had blessed Abraham, and as a result, that blessing made him great. And I don't believe that was his story only. I believe that God is for all of us achieving greatness if we are walking according to his purpose for our lives. What people have to realize is that when you are walking in God's purpose, greatness can come as a result. Another verse would be Proverbs 4, verse 8. It says, if you prize wisdom, she will make you great. Embrace her, and she will honor you. We were meant to be great, but if God is going to make you great, there's a process that you have to go through when you're trying to be great with God. And that process might involve you being brought low for a season. That's just the reality. But God's overall goal is to increase you, especially if he finds that you are faithful. And a problem is that too many people settle. Too many people settle. They don't aim high. They keep their goals really low. Your goal in life should not be to work a dead-end job that just pays your bills. I rarely meet people who have low aspirations for life, but this is how some people live. This is all they aspire to do. They don't aspire to have more. And honestly, if you are there, that's okay, because, I've been there as well, and we have to start somewhere. But it shouldn't be the only thing you desire for your life. If that's all you desire, then you have lost touch with the nature that God has placed inside of you. And it's not a selfish desire to want more out of life. Sometimes when I talk about this kind of stuff, people think that my mind is only on satisfying the desires of the flesh, but it's really about being in alignment with man's true nature, with man's purpose. The desire to do something great and to be great is God-given. In the beginning, God created mankind to be great. The word says that he created man in his own image. He blessed them and said, be fruitful and multiply. Populate the earth, conquer it. And he said that we would have dominion over the animals. Just the fact that you were made in God's image and he took the time to breathe his breath into you should let you know that you were designed for a better life than the animals. Animals, their life is driven by survival and nothing else. They don't have a purpose. They don't have a preference about where they live or what they eat. But we do. Our purpose goes deeper than just survival. God created us to do great things while we are here on this earth, to conquer it. When you read that word, it's for us would be to conquer, but in the Hebrew it's a different word. And that word in the Hebrew would mean subdue, to bring into bondage. And it kind of lets you know that there is an effort on our part to build upon the earth, to create the world into something, to bring it into order, to add your touch to the world. He didn't just speak these words just to humankind, but really every person specifically has this word built into them. And that's where the desire for greatness comes from. God spoke a word over mankind. And I think that many of us are afraid to strive for greatness because we don't think it's for us. We think that some people are born for it and others are not, or we're not. And I know I myself used to believe the same thing. I would always be fascinated with people who were more successful than I was, and who have done things successfully that I've always wanted to do. And I would always try to learn from their success formula and duplicate it. But I usually didn't find myself getting very far despite having their formula, because I found there were certain things they would suggest that just didn't fit with the way that I do things, with the way that I was designed. For example, me and my best friend, we are complete opposites from each other. The things I'm really good at, he's not. And the things that he's really good at, I'm kind of bad at. And oftentimes I would feel insecure about myself because I couldn't follow my friend's method for success. You know, how come when we play basketball, he would pick up his dribbling and shooting technique faster than I did? You know what I mean? How come I didn't have that motivation he seemed to have? And I started to doubt my self-worth as an individual because I thought like doing things the way he did it was the only way I would have greatness and success. My problem wasn't me trying to improve myself. You know, there's nothing wrong with trying to improve yourself because we all have a better version that we should strive for. My problem was that I was trying to do things in a way that conflicted with the way that God had made me. You know, God gave him certain giftings that allowed him to do the things he did, giftings that work differently than mine. So if I used his formula, it wouldn't work out for me. I would burn myself out. And I had to realize that I was gifted, and I had to perfect those things that I was gifted at. I had to realize that I was funny, and I had to work on perfecting that. I had to realize I had a gift for helping people achieve their breakthrough, and I worked on that. I had to rediscover some old giftings that I thought were worthless because it didn't seem as cool compared to everyone else's. But now I realized that's not true. And I started walking content in the way that God made me, and that gave me confidence to be a better version of myself. See, a lot of people are so busy comparing themselves to others that they don't see what they have. They're so concerned about what other people have that they cannot enjoy what God has blessed them with. And they may not even realize that God has blessed them with a great gifting. Like I had to realize about myself. You may not think that you aren't laugh out loud funny, or because you aren't as smart as other people, you are disqualified from achieving greatness, but that's not true. See, the only thing that's stopping you from achieving greatness is the way you think about yourself. And you'll have a hard time trying to be great comparing or copying someone else's formula. It's like the story of Saul wanting David to wear his armor for the fight with Goliath. The armor that Saul gave David represented his success formula, what he thought David would need to win the battle. But David had enough confidence in who he was and who God created him to be to know that that armor was of no use to him. You know, he tried it on, walked around, and realized that he cannot use this armor and that he was better off using what he knew, which was the slingshot. And I feel like too many people are losing because they're trying to use someone else's formula, someone else's armor. Use what you know instead. Because once you realize that you have a gifting, when I tell you that you have the same potential as a Jay-Z or a Barack Obama or that successful person you know or and wish you could be like, it's easier to believe it. You know, it's easy to believe that God created you for greatness. It's only hard to believe when you doubt God's word for your life. Understand, regardless of your circumstances, you are meant for greatness. You just have to grab a hold of this revelation that God created you to do something great and walk in it. And that is what will set you free. Stop being a victim and start your path to greatness.